everyone, this is Julia Knit Stuff. I'm Julia. This is my very first podcast episode. So I'm super excited to talk at length about what I have going on and what's been going on with my knitting recently. So one of my goals for 2024 is to share a lot more about my knitting and to catalog it a little bit more chronologically. So I thought a podcast would be a really fun way to do that. Normally, I'm a teacher, so I teach algebra and pre-algebra at a school in San Antonio, Texas, and I knit on the evenings and on the weekends, and I share knitting with my friends and family. So a couple of my friends knit, and my sister knits, and my mom knits. So that's one thing that I like to do with the people in my life, and one thing I wanted to share a little bit more of. In the spirit of a podcast, the first thing we're going to talk about is what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie Made in the colors from the National Park Club of 2020 from Exploring Knits and Fibers. So from top down, we have Joshua Tree National Park, Banff National Park, Voyagers National Park, Gates of the Arctic National Park, Joshua Tree again, Banff again. And I love this sweater. I thought it was a beautiful way to show off the Rockies DK that I had got one skein per month for about 6 months. So you'll be like, that's only 4 colors. Yep, there's 2 other colors. I knit them. I think one might still be in my stash, but I thought this would be a lovely way to show off all the colors of the yarn. Something interesting about this sweater, I knit a size 2-3. So I'm between sizes. I'm between the size 2 and the size 3, and I have a pretty big difference between my bust measurement and my waist measurement. So I like to knit a combination of sizes, and I also like to do a lot of waist shaping in my garments because of that ratio that I have for my body. And I find that flatter's a weird word, but it makes me feel a little bit more like myself to show that side of my figure, to have more positive ease at the bust, but then a little bring it in at the waist for most of my sweaters. Something else about this sweater is I knitted at a super large gauge. So my gauge is like 15 stitches per inch when the pattern is written for 18. So I got a really breathable sweater that's been lovely to wear in the springs and in the like moderate winters I have in San Antonio. So I've really been enjoying wearing this sweater. Another thing about it is it has a wider neck. So I wear it more like a long sleeve t-shirt than I really do a sweater. Like for me, a sweater would be something I would wear over a shirt, but I don't really wear a shirt under this. So it's more like a t-shirt, which I really enjoy about it. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is my almost finished object. Yeah, there's a story. So I started the Port sweater by Ozetta around Thanksgiving time. So this was my sweater project in December and in November. I didn't knit on it a lot in December. I was making hats and I went on a trip, and so I couldn't really knit on a large project on my trip. But you can see this is the Port sweater. So I'll hold that up so you can see the beautiful color. This is Chinley by Exploring Knits and Fibers in the base boucle. So you can see the lovely texture and coziness of the boucle, which I really love about this sweater. When Allie, first introduced boucle, I knew I was gonna get a sweater quantity, but I didn't know what color. And I picked the color after the sample that Allie showed on Instagram was like, after she showed the sample, because I was like, all right, I just want that sweater. And so that really helped me make the decision. And I love that about samples from dyers, that they can really help me narrow down what I want. You might hear a little rustling. My dog just found a bone, so I hope she's having a good time with it. All right, so here's why it's almost finished. I mean, you can probably tell. The collar. I did knit a collar on the sweater. Here's the front. I did knit a collar on the sweater, but I found it to be too loose for my liking. And you can even tell in the pattern photos on the port sweater that the collar like comes off the neck a bit, and which is nice in the Aran weight or worsted weight that Ozetta made her sample. It stands up really stiff, but in this boucle, it's a little floppy. So I'm gonna go back and pick up fewer stitches to have a tighter collar. You notice this is a drop shoulder with a decent amount of positive ease. So you can see that even holding it up against myself, it has a decent amount of positive ease. And I love that about the sweater. I don't typically make my sweaters with more than 5 inches of positive ease. So I did want a really cozy, comfy sweater for just lounging around on a cold day or heading out on a cold day or whatever. So I did want it to be oversized. I love the shoulder detail on the sweater. So you can see the ribbing is only on the, like around the arms. It doesn't continue down the body. And I liked that about the sweater because it adds a little bit of interest and design element to this gorgeous piece. Something else I wanted to say is I did knit a size 3 on US 5 needles. So I think the pattern recommends a US 9, but as I was knitting and swatching and going through, I found I was getting gauged on a US 5. I have a really loose knitting tension. So for me, I always typically have to go down 1, 2 sizes, but I had to go down 4 sizes for this sweater, which also makes sense because the boucle is more like a DK weight sweater and the recommended yarn is like worsted Aran. So I did have to go down a couple needle sizes to get the gauge I needed. Something else is a couple mods. So a couple of the mods I made are, I added some waist shaping. So I'm gonna hold this in front of my face. You can see the waist shaping is here. It starts about right here. And that's because, like I mentioned, my bust circumference is really different from my waist. So I wanted to bring it in a little bit so that it fit my body how I like my clothes to fit. So I did start decreasing 2 stitches on each side, about 2 inches before I split for ribbing. And then I think I switched to a smaller smaller needle for the ribbing, which is not what Ozetta recommends, but I knew that I wanted my ribbing to come in a little bit more. So that's one mod that I made. Another mod that I made is the sleeves. So I knit the size 3, but I knew I didn't want giant sleeves. I wanted more of a fitted, well, not necessarily, they're not fitted when I try them on. I'll try it on when it's actually finished. So they're not really a fitted sleeve, but I wanted it to shape my arm better. So I actually picked up for the size small around this part of the sweater. I guess I picked up my sleeve using the stitch count for the size small. And then I didn't decrease the way a size small is supposed to decrease. So the size small says to decrease every 9 stitches. I actually did do that, and I came out with like sleeves that were like this big around, and my arms are not that big around, so it was kind of just like a giant sleeve, and I didn't want giant sleeves, so I frogged back both of the sleeves because I had finished both, and I knit them so that it was decreasing every 4 rows, so that I got more of a consistent decrease pattern to my sleeve that contours my arms a little better and isn't too oversized with the sleeves. And that's something I wanted to do just because I thought it would be a better fit for how I like my sweaters to be. And I think it came out really, really well. And I'm excited to finish the collar and get to wear this at the last bits of winter here in South Texas. Okay, so that's my almost finished object. Almost. I'm actually gonna get it done this weekend. Right now it's February 2nd, so I'm hoping to get it done literally today, and so that I get to wear it all of February. And we typically have in San Antonio, we have another cold burst in March, and then like there's gonna be a cold week in April. And for all I know, there'll be a cold week in May. So I think I'll be able to wear this a little bit more this year until the summertime. All right, so that's my port sweater. Okay, All right, the next item I wanted to share is my current sweater whip. So my sweater whip is currently the Daily Ritual Raglan by Park Williams, also called Park Knits, in Woolberry Fiber Co. Berry fingering or berry sock, and berry Surrey. So I'm holding together my two yarns. I'm holding together these two yarns, and it's making this beautiful pink speckle. The colorway is flock, and I'm keeping it in my flock bag. I didn't go to Flock Fiber Festival in Seattle in August. My sister did. She used to live in, there's the dogs. She used to live in Seattle, and so they took a family vacation and got to go to the Fiber Festival. I think it'd be amazing if I got to go this year, but I have some other life plans that I might do instead, so it's just how it goes. So this is the Daily Ritual Raglan. Again, I'm making a size 2-3 combo, or a size in between the 2 and the 3. And let me see what some notes are that I can share with you. I do keep a knitting journal, so that's this one. I haven't taken off this little band because for some reason I feel like it's protecting my journal, so that's why I'm leaving that on. So here's my pattern page for the Daily Ritual. So some information from here. The design is supposed to have a 19 stitch by 29 rows gauge, and the yardage is supposed to be between 1,050 yards and 11,190 yards. And I'm using like the fingering held with the mohair like this. So again, the color is Woolberry Fiber Co. Flock. Berry Merino. I was like, I know that's not the name of the base. 100% superwash merino, which is 400 yards per 100 grams. And the berry Surrey is 65% Surrey and 35% silk. So you'll notice that's a lower Surrey and a higher silk than some other some other bases that might be like another Surrey lace base that's offered. And the reason I love that about this one is because the yardage is 437 yards for 50 grams, which is a better 1-to-1 ratio for my sweaters. A little bit more, I cast on 68 stitches for the size 2, and I'm following the yoke pattern for the size 2, but I ended up doing a couple more increases than the size 2 recommends, so I ended up between the size 2 and the size 3. I did block my yoke here, so I blocked the yoke. You can see like a line where the texture of the knitting changes, about, at least I can see it. Let me find it. All right, so the texture of my knitting changes about here. That's because I blocked the top part of the yoke to see if I was hitting the 19 stitch gauge and to see the size of my sweater. And I did hit the 19 stitches for 4-inch gauge after it was blocked. I was knitting it actually a little tighter than 19 stitches, which is unusual for me. And I think that's because I normally use my metal Chaogu needles. And for this one, I'm using my Leica driftwood needles. And I'm using the needle size 7 and 5. Oh wait, that's not true. That's the suggested needle. So the suggested needle is size 7 and size 5. I'm using size 6, so I went down only 1 needle size. All right, I'm really hoping to get this done by Valentine's Day because it's this beautiful pink speckly color. So I hope this is gonna be my Valentine's Day sweater, and I'm really looking forward to getting that done. I've got about 10 days or so before Valentine's Day. So I'm gonna finish the body, finish the ribbing and the sleeves so that I have a sweater to wear for Valentine's Day. I love the turtleneck detail, and I also love the neck shaping on this pattern. So the Daily Ritual pattern, you start it flat, and then you shape the neckline with some increases while you're knitting flat. And so that's what raises the back of the sweater while you knit it flat and you're creating this nice neckline. Then after you're done with that setup knitting flat, you cast on a few stitches here, right under the neck, and join in the round. Then you knit an increase, the raglan at a steady increase, and then you switch to combination raglan where you only increase the body and not the sleeves, and that's going to create a really wonderful fit of the sweater. My sister knit this pattern and she says it's her best fitting sweater, so I'm really excited to see if this one's going to be my best fitting sweater, especially because I'm experimenting with going in between sizes. So I increased between the size 2 and the size 3 because I didn't want as much positive ease as the 3, but I knew the 2 would be too small. So that's one thing I did for my personal preference. And I didn't even have to add waist shaping on this sweater because it's written into the pattern. So I'm adding waist shaping along both sides. So you can even kind of see it as I hold it up here that it has pretty drastic waist shaping every 4 rows. And there's that as well. I developed a little technique. I'm using these stitch markers here. So every time I come to a new row, I put my needles on a different one of these stitch markers. And so I'm right now on an decrease round. So that's why I'm on this gold one. On the green and pink, I'm not decreasing. And so when I end with this last pink one, I go back to this gold and that tells me to decrease. And that's how I know what row I'm on. And if I need a decrease or not, and when. So that's my current sweater whip. It's like at this mindless stage where I just knit and watch TV or read a book. So that's been really fun to have a sweater at that stage. But I'm also really looking forward to getting it done. All right, the next whip I wanted to talk about is in my Black Pearl Magic bag. I love my Black Pearl Magic bag. I got it on a D-stash. I don't even know if I got a good deal on it because I've never even been to Black Pearl Magic's shop when the bags have been available. Like, I don't even know how you can get your hands on them directly from Black Pearl Magic. But I know that the bags are actually so beautiful. One of my favorite parts is the handles they all have. And then that they're mostly see-through. And then this one has this beautiful rainbow zipper. That's amazing. It's like a rainbow slip zipper. And I like the star motif. My boyfriend and I really like astronomy, and so I thought that was a really cool touch that I got the star one. And in the bag is a shawl, scarf thing. So this is another one of my whips. I love this shawl I'm making. It's a really simple garter stitch shawl, and I'm knitting it with an I-cord edge here and here, and it might remind you of a really popular shawl. I'm not using that pattern. I'm using my own brain, so I casted on 7 stitches, 3 for this I-cord, 3 for this I-cord, and 1 to make the pattern with. I'm gonna need to sew the end so it makes a better point. I think it'll be really nice if I sew that up like that. When I weave in the end. And I'm increasing every 6 rounds. On the right, I make one right. On the left, I make one left. I'm doing that every 6 rounds. And then I'm going to increase until I finish my first ball. I'm holding the yarn double. And this yarn is like really special to me. And so the yarn is, I have the next skein. It's Cashmere Caverns sock in the colorway linen from Explorer Knits and Fibers. And the reason why I love this yarn is because it's one of my very first ever Explorer Knits and Fibers purchases. So I got it in 2020 and I ordered it from Colorful Yarns, one of the stockists from Explorer Knits and Fibers. And I got it and I was so happy to get it. And this is kind of silly, but I love that it's literally from the time when it was just Allie. So Allie from Explorer Knits and Fibers is my favorite dyer. I've followed her for 5 years or more. And so I've just loved seeing the company grow. And that just makes my original Allie Allie's Basement yarn, just like so special to me, especially this one where she literally wrote the label. So I'm gonna like have to glue that, paste that into my knitting journal for my shawl. So I'm really excited. The purpose of this shawl is to be like that extra layer of warmth when I'm going to like a fancy wedding or a special event, that I don't want to wear a sweater that's going to throw off the vibe of my dress or my top. And so I can wear this shawl as like another fancy element to the outfit. I have been knitting on this since January 15th, I think. Let's see. January 15th is right. And I call it my linen scarf because that's the pattern. Sorry, no, the yarn color is linen. And again, it was really fun to come up with my own pattern from my brain about the shawl. And I was inspired by something I had seen, but it's just gonna be a really simple shape. It's gonna increase and then decrease. So I'm super excited to get that done. I'm gonna be finished increasing when this ball is done, and then I will decrease. This is my cat. He's a very cozy cat. He came out because the dogs went outside. Okay. And, okay, I'm gonna finish increasing with this one, and then I'll wrap up with this one. I think I won't go until this one is absolutely done because I really don't want to play any yarn chicken, so I might increase until I have like 5 grams left, and then that will be enough so that I can decrease with this one. Okay. Oh, I am using my chow glue needles for this one, so take that with that what you will. They're the size 6. I think I did go with the size 6. Yeah, I went with a size 6. I'm holding the yarn double. I'm using that same stitch marker technique, so it's the same thing. I slip a stitch marker every time I come to it, and when I get to the end, I go back to this cat one, and when I get to this cat one, that's when I know I'm increasing. There's my linen scarf whip. All right, next I wanted to talk about my future plans, and I'm keeping them in this bag, and it's my plan for the Shifty sweater. All right, I'm really excited about the Shifty sweater. A little background, when I first started knitting in 2015 and I saw this pattern, it was like my bucket list knit. I loved the gorgeous mosaic knitting with the color changes from the spin cycle yarn, and I was so excited to see this, and I really wanted to knit it as soon as I saw it. You can probably tell it's not 2015. It's actually quite a minute since 2015. So it's now 2024, and I finally have collected spin cycle yarn to make the sweater. So you probably know spin cycle yarn, it's expensive. I'm pretty sure most people can agree it's expensive. And so I've been collecting them one skein at a time. And so that's why it's taken this long for me to get to the sweater. And I've also been kind of nervous about playing with the colors, and I really want it to look good. So I'm just really hoping it's gonna be everything I want it to be. Sorry, this is bothering me. And so let me talk you through what I've picked. All right, I have 3 contrasting colors and 2 main colors. So the first contrasting color is the one in my hands. It's Grumpy Birds. And you can see the blues, greens, and oranges in the color. And this is from Andrea Mowry's sample that she did the original Shifty in. She used Grumpy Birds as the main color. So I'm using that as one of my contrasts. Another one of my contrasting colors is Every Rose. I don't need to look this one up because it stands out to me. And it's this beautiful rainbow of colors. You can literally see like yellow, red, blue. I was gonna say green. Oh yeah, there's a little green right here. Yeah, so it's just this gorgeous variegated, color changing, you know, spin cycle yarn. And so that's another one of my contrasting colors, Every Rose. Let me hold it up a little bit longer. Okay, there's that one. And then my third contrast color is another, like, is blue green, and this one is called Overpasses. I tucked the little label into the center of the yarn. And this one's blue and green and a little brown. So this one is in my third contrasting color. I picked an order. I think the order I picked was, wrote it down. The order I picked was Every Rose, then Grumpy Birds, then Overpasses. So A, B, C. And then the background color, oh, sorry, let me hold that up. Every Rose, Grumpy Bird, Overpasses. Every Rose, Grumpy Bird, Overpasses. And I think I put the Grumpy Bird in the middle because it had that orange, more orange to tie the three together. So that's how that's gonna be, those three, with the background of this really pretty teal blue. I'm putting my tables right here. With this really pretty teal blue, I got 2 spin cycle colors to hold in the back because the pattern says you need 5 spin cycle skeins for the background color, and that is just, it's a little expensive for me. So even though I've been collecting for years, I just couldn't, 5 of the same spin cycle is just a little, there's other things I could do instead of doing 5 of them, and I'm gonna explain what I settled on. That's another reason it took me so long to pick the yarn, because I could not justify in my brain 5 of the same spin cycle yarns to be the background. Anyway, and if you did that, then we just have different priorities. Neither one is more important than the other. This is just my opinions, obviously. So it's this Melancholia. So it does have a little bit of the color changing from the light teals, dark teals, but I do like that it's more of like a single color kind, because I'm gonna alternate these 2 Melancholias with 3 Kelborn Woolen Andorra in the color Peacock. So Andorra is really cool because it's a blend of wool, so 2 types of wool, so 60% merino wool, 20% Highland wool, and 20% mohair. So what's cool about that is you can see it has a bit of a halo, and I'm gonna alternate this one with my Melancholia so that halo is gonna be like evenly dispersed throughout the sweater. And so I have 3 of these. Something to note about the Kelborn Woolens and Dora is that colorway that I have, Peacock, has been discontinued. And I only know that because someone reached out to me on Ravelry, because it was in my stash on Ravelry, and they emailed me, is there any way that they could use it for a sweater, like a project they needed? And I wasn't able to part with mine, but I did find a yarn store that had it in stock, and that's what I sent them as my reply. So that's this color for the background of my Shifty. I really want to get that cast on this weekend, because right now it's Saturday morning, so I hope to get this cast on. And I'm really looking forward to getting that on my needles, because like I said, it's a bucket list knit for me. So I'm gonna put this back in the bag and talk a little bit more about what I hope to get out of that process. I really want to be able to play with color on this sweater. That's literally the point of Spin Cycle in my mind, is that it has all those different colors. So I'm really excited to see how they play out in the mosaic background of my knitting. My dogs have some chews that they're eating, so you might hear them a little bit. That's better than the playing around they were doing earlier. So that's what we settled on. They have a chew. So next, I'm really excited for this next one. So here's the yarn. I haven't caked it yet. So it's the Explorer Knits and Fibers Sagrada Familia on the Cashmere Caverns sock. So it's this beautiful pastel rainbow. So I'm casting this on to be a Spring Sorrel. I think that's by Woolen Pine Designs. So I want this to be a Spring Sorrel. You might think the Spring Sorrel is a DK weight pattern and this is sock weight yarn, and I would say yes. But as we've discussed, I have a larger knitting gauge, so I have a really loose knitting gauge. It's just my style. And so it helps me hit the gauge of the pattern if I go down a yarn weight, because my sock gauge is more like other people's DK gauge. That's what I noticed about my own knitting in the almost 10 years that I've been knitting, is my sock gauge is closer to most people's DK. Well, not most people, but like the pattern designed in DK, that's my sock gauge. My sock gauge is like 20 stitches per inches. Maybe I can even hit like, I can get 22, 24. I just have to go down to like a size 3, size 2 needle to get that done. And I've done that in the past, but that's what I wanted to do with this yarn, especially because I think the Cashmere Cavern sock base is warm. I think it's really warm. So I need it to be, I like that I'm knitting it at a DK gauge because that means it's going to be more airy and breathable so that I can wear it more often for my climate in San Antonio. So I'm really excited. Again, I want to cast this on this weekend, maybe get the ribbing on the collar done for this one, and the ribbing on the collar done for my Shifty, and then the color of my port done, and the body of my daily ritual done. And as I'm saying this out loud, it sounds like a lot of knitting. But I mean, ribbing, you can get the ribbing of a collar done in like an hour, so I think it's feasible. It's Saturday morning, I can get it done. So that's what I have going on. I really hope to continue shooting these podcast episodes and talking more about my knitting, because like I said, my goal for 2024 is to share more of my knitting and to catalog more of my knitting. So I'm really hoping that I can maybe speak to somebody else who's trying to for the same goal, or trying to learn more about knitting, or they just want somebody else to add to their knitting podcast repertoire of watch what they watch, or it's just for me and it's there into the void for me to watch whenever I want to. That's weird that I'm gonna watch myself, but it is about cataloging my progress, and so I'm really excited to see that progress. So again, thank you for watching. I'm Julia, and I hope you come back.